Hello everyone, I am Florence Nightingale. In finding myself transported into the future, I am truly humbled to see how my practical efforts as well as writings and publications have birthed the foundation for the profession of nursing. I have been extremely excited to see how many theorists have improved upon my theory and even today continue to advance nursing care and education. I'm truly honored to be invited to this symposium. However, many assumptions that provided the basis for my theory are outdated. What I will do here today is attempt to provide a clear explanation as to how my theory came about, and then tie it into how it is still being used today. To begin with, I'd like to give you a little background about myself and the events that birthed my theory. I was brought up in an English family who taught me strong values and gave me an understanding of God. My call to nursing grew out of my strong devotion to God. When I was but 17, I knew God was calling me to His service. I began to spend my time seeking out opportunities to serve those in their time of need. Having grown up in a wealthy and influential family, I had received education in language, philosophy, and mathematics. I knew that my family had the resources for me to receive higher education, so I decided to learn everything I could about nursing. At the time, Kaiserwerth Institute in Germany was the only program available, and so that is where I went. I put my whole heart and every effort into learning to clean floors and walls, change dressings, and alleviate suffering for patients. After my education was complete, I returned to England and became the superintendent of the Institute for the Care of Sick Gentlewomen in Upper Harley Street, London. I had many ideas such as ventilation management, keeping a patient warm, and cleanliness and sanitation that I wanted to pioneer at this hospital. After much hard work and sacrifice, I was successful. It was this success that led to the offer I received to take a team of 38 nurses to Scutari, Turkey, during the height of the Crimean War, in order to care for wounded soldiers. My time in the Crimea led to the birth of my theory on the holistic nature of nursing and the alteration of the patient environment for optimal healing. I'd like to begin by defining my concepts. The environment is a central concept to my theory. During the Crimean War, I found myself in a hospital full of soldiers who were left to die in filth, sewage, foul smells, darkness, and inadequate nutrition and clean water. I determined that by providing well-ventilated rooms, proper sewage disposal, cleanliness and sanitation, variety of scenery and proper nutrition, nursing could maintain a healing environment. The environment in my theory is defined as anything that comes into contact with the patient, who is a whole being. Any physical, intellectual, or spiritual situation in which the patient finds himself is his environment. Nursing seeks to manipulate the patient's environment in order to promote healing. A person is seen as an individual who receives nursing care. The person is a complex being composed of biological, psychological, social, and spiritual elements. When achieving healing for the patient, all elements must be taken into account. More modern theorists have come to call this concept holistic. In the first paragraph of the introduction to my notes on nursing, I stated that all disease at some period or other of its course is more or less a reparative process, not necessarily accompanied with suffering. It is an effort of nature to remedy a process of poisoning or of decay. Health is not only to be well, but to be able to use well every power we have. It is important then to define health as a state of being in which a person is not suffering, who has been relieved of his pain through the manipulation of external factors. Fundamental to my theory of nursing is the idea that nursing should be a profession in which we put the patient in the best possible situation for nature to act. This is accomplished through rearranging the environment so that it is conducive to natural laws. If a patient is cold, if a patient is feverish, if a patient is faint, if he is sick after taking food, if he has a bed sore, it is generally the fault not of the disease, but of the nursing. nursing cares for the patient in the optimal way for improving and maintaining health and healing. This can be done by anyone, and is particularly done by women in the home. Nursing proper, however, is reserved for those who have been trained in the art and science of nursing, meaning those who have the education to be able to problem solve in a logical manner. The nurse proper should possess superior skills in observation, so that he or she may be able to accurately and promptly report to the physician. The nurse should be compliant with the medical plan at all times and work with the physician to promote the ultimate goal of healing. There are 7 philosophical assumptions that provide the framework for my theory. The first is that of natural laws. My faith in God has led me to believe in the predictability of nature. As we observe the patient in their physical, psychological, and spiritual reactions to our treatment and caring, we can then base our understanding on experience. Careful collection of these observations can lead to an understanding of the future basis for improvement upon our current treatments. The second assumption is that of the ability to achieve perfection. To achieve perfection in nursing is to create the perfect environment in which the patient heals completely. The third assumption for my work is that nursing is a calling. The nurse should perform their job unselfishly with full devotion to God and mankind. My fourth assumption is that nursing is both a science and an art. Caring is an art, but foundationally, nursing should be built on evidence and scientific underpinnings. Nursing is achieved through environmental alteration. In my notes on nursing, I identify ways the environment can be altered in order to promote optimal healing. Proper waste management and ventilation of rooms are among the most important. I had heard of the germ theory at the time, but as it was not completely believed, my experience led me to believe that disease comes from gases and fumes that arise from sewage and decay. Therefore, Notes on Nursing expresses the extreme importance of maintaining cleanliness, ventilation, and access to clean water in the hospital. My sixth assumption is that nursing proper should be built upon a strong educational base. Neither can nursing be taught in lectures or by books alone, although these are valuable resources, but nursing is also a matter of experience and science. Lastly, nursing is distinctly separate from medicine. While medicine is designed to cure a disease, nursing is designed to care for the patient in the best way possible, to promote prompt and swift recovery. In Notes on Nursing, I defined 13 canons for nursing practice. Each of these can still be applied to nursing today. As you can see, the first 6 pertain to what is known today as the physical environment. When working as a nurse in the hospital, you should always be aware of the state of your patient's room. For example, sinks should be clean and wiped down, there should be no excrement spilled on the floor, and it should be free from supplies lying cluttered about the room. The next 2 canons, variety and chattering hopes, pertain to the patient's psychological environment. Do not offer the patient false hope or belittle or make light of their situation. Instead, offer guided imagery to relieve pain, encouragement, or mental stimulation to help pass the time. In speaking of nutritional status, when patients are admitted to a hospital, be sure they are evaluated by a nutritionist. Then check the chart and ensure that the correct diet has been ordered. When they receive their meals, food should be arranged in an appetizing way, and help should be provided should they not be able to feed themselves. Last but not least are petty management and observations of the sick. No one nurse can do it all. He or she must be able to reasonably delegate and manage care of the patient. Modern theorists used my ideas of managing patient care, and today it is known as the nursing process. During my time in the Crimean War, I was aware of the germ theory. However, it was not a popular school of thought. I had, however, been in contact with influential men such as Edwin Chadwick, who comprised the Report on the Sanitary Conditions of the Labouring Population of Great Britain. His report clearly showed a link between unsanitary and overcrowded conditions and mortality. People were dying from cholera and typhus, which were preventable with the right care and clean environment. His report was what led me to seek more understanding of the patient environment in the eventual birth of my theory. I am humbled to see that my theories have had a large impact on healthcare today, specifically within the realm of public health policy and social welfare. During the Crimean War, I gathered statistical information about the patients and hospitals, and in my letters and publications thereafter, I stressed the importance of gathering evidence for decision-making and policy development. My implementations at the barracks in Scutari played a large part in the research that was conducted thereafter for the development of modern hospitals. My theories on nursing and what nursing care should and should not be birthed the modern-day nursing profession. In my quest for developing nursing as its own discipline, I advocated nursing education and opened the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St. Thomas Hospital. This was the beginning of diploma programs in nursing. In conclusion, I would like to leave you with a story. My grand theory of nursing originated from the time I spent serving in the Crimea. When I arrived at the army hospital in Scutari, Turkey, I was unprepared for what greeted me. Men lay dying in their beds, wounds festering in dirty bandages that had not been changed for days. The damp, stagnant air of the barracks was foul with the stench of gangrene and human excrement. Rats scurried beneath my feet, feeding on rotting food that had not been disposed of. I knew what my 38 nurses and I had to do but because of cultural proprieties and social conventions regarding women at the time, we were not allowed inside the men's wards. I had not expected this. We had brought much-needed supplies, clean clothes and bedding for the soldiers, but were not allowed to distribute them. I begged the orderlies, argued with the physicians and commanders, but to no avail. I knew if my nurses and I were to get in there, we were going to have to prove ourselves. Eventually our opportunity came. After one particularly fierce battle, we were met with more casualties than the physicians and orderlies could handle, and they were forced to let us do our job. And do our job we did. We scrubbed floors, washed walls, opened windows, changed bandages, cleaned the linens, and provided proper nutrition for the soldiers. During that time, the death rate dropped significantly from our efforts, and I realized we had at last proved ourselves. But proving ourselves had not been our goal, for our ultimate goal was to achieve healing for the soldiers. As I weaved my way in and out of hospital beds at night, carrying a solitary lamp to light my way, I knew that we had at last accomplished what we had set out to do. Those who had been lying in filth, dying and crying in agony, had been replaced with those who now lay in clean beds, sleeping peacefully with the light of hope shining brightly on their faces. I want to thank you all for this delightful opportunity. It has been a real pleasure to present to you today. God bless.